Hello and welcome to our virtual training session. This week we're going to talk about pre-job briefings, and these are the OSHA guidelines. Now here are the guidelines for the pre-job briefing according to OSHA for construction. Number one, we need a hazard identification, and we need to communicate this, what the potential workplace hazards are. Number two, safety procedures and protocols. We need to talk about the relevant safety procedures, emergency protocols, where we're going to meet up, what we're going to do in case there is an incident. And we need to make sure that everybody has the personal protective equipment. Number three is role clarification. We need to make sure everybody understands their roles and their responsibilities. Number four, training and competency. We need to make sure that they're trained, and we need to make sure that they know how to do this on the job. And then number five, record keeping. We have to document the job briefing and the safety information that was presented. This is going to be very helpful if we ever do have an incident. First, let's talk about what a hazard is. A hazard is the potential for harm. In practical terms, a hazard is often associated with a condition or an activity that, if left uncontrolled, can result in injury or illness. Identifying hazards and eliminating or controlling them as early as possible will help prevent injuries and illnesses. A pre-job briefing analysis is a technique that focuses on job tasks as a way to identify hazards before they occur. It focuses on the relationship between the worker, the task, and the tools, and the work environment. Ideally, after you've identified uncontrolled hazards, you will take steps to eliminate or reduce them to an acceptable risk level. When thinking about hazards, the first thing you want to ask yourself is, what could go wrong? That's the easy enough way to think about it. What are the consequences? How could it happen? How could it arise? What are some of the contributing factors? And how likely is that this hazard will occur? Now, where is it happening? What's the environment like? Who or what is it happening to? Who's being exposed? What precipitates the hazard? What's going to trigger this problem? And then the outcome that would occur should it happen. What are the consequences? And we need to think about any other contributing factors. So what can happen if you don't write up a pre-job briefing? Well, for one thing, it could be non-compliance fines imposed by OSHA. This is kind of a catch-22. If we don't have a pre-job briefing, it shows that we're lax in looking at what the problems could be, and we're not taking care of our people. So this increases our chances of being fined, so we don't want that. Also, increased risk of accidents because we didn't do proper preparation and communication with our workers. Now, the potential harm to our employees who are not properly informed about the job requirements and hazards. We don't want somebody doing a job they haven't been trained for or know how to handle. That sets us up for potential legal liabilities for the employer if the accident occurs due to lack of proper briefing. We need to let them know what the hazards are. If we're not doing a pre-job briefing, there could be communication breakdowns. People might not know where they're supposed to be, what they're supposed to be doing. It also shows insufficient risk assessments. We may run into some hazardous working conditions that everybody doesn't know about. This could lead to legal and financial repercussions. And again, this is a violation of safety standards. As you can see, this is coming right from OSHA. The briefing shall cover hazards associated with the job, work procedures involved, special precautions, energy source controls, and personal protective equipment requirements. Do you need just regular safety glasses, splash-proof goggles, or a full face shield? We need to make sure everybody understands what's going to get them through this job safely. Now, we need to do at least one before each day or shift, and that includes if we move to another work site, we're going to need to do another briefing. Also, additional job briefings shall be held if there's any significant changes that might affect the safety of our employees. Maybe another crew from a different company comes in and starts working. How is that going to affect our people? And if the work involved is routine, and if the employees, by virtue of training and experience, can reasonably expected to recognize and avoid the hazards involved in the job, we can keep this to a short discussion. But if things get more complicated, then we're going to have to go into more detail. So if the job is going to be complicated or particularly hazardous, we need to spend more time on it. Also, if the employee cannot be expected to recognize and avoid the hazards involved in the job. So in some cases, if you have a new employee, you may need more time to let them know what could happen in this situation. So you want to talk to them. Now, the Verita standard requires that a pre-job briefing be filled out. We need to see that you have assessed the job hazards. Again, this way, if something does happen, we do have some backup to show that have looked at the hazards and done what you can to mitigate them. Now, the leading hazards on construction sites, this is what we need to be really aware of, are falls. Watch out for stairways and ladders. Again, look out for electrical problems. And if we're trenching or doing excavation. And then, of course, motor vehicle safety, and of course, setting up our work zones. Now, for falls, if we're working more than 6 feet above a lower level, we must have fall protection. And again, we want to maintain 100% tie-off at all times. Of course, stairways and ladders are a major source of injuries and even fatalities among construction workers. So always make sure you do an inspection on your ladder, make sure it's in good shape, you have it set up properly. Never stand on the top step or cap of a step ladder, and be careful on stairs in a construction area. We may not have the handrails for people. Now, for electrical safety, always make sure that we have an FVD to check down guys, grounds, and the strand itself. Double check locates if you're doing any trenching or digging. And again, remember your minimum approach distance, 24 inches is as close as we should ever get to a electrical line that we know of. And if needed, make sure that you're wearing the hot gloves. Again, when we're digging, we never dig blind. We need to have the locate marks out there. Now in Michigan, we do have a safety zone where we have to do soft excavation, hand dig, hydrovac, 4 feet either side of the paint or the flags until we have found the utility. So make sure you take care of that, and make sure we pothole all utilities. We want to have eyeballs on that drill head going forward and pulling back. And make sure you fill in all the potholes and pits when we're done. And don't forget to check for private utilities. If we're involved in excavation work, any trench greater than 4 feet deep must be sloped, shored, or shielded. And we must be within 25 feet of a ladder if it's greater than 4 feet. And that ladder must extend 3 rungs above the trench. We do not enter a trench that has water in it. If there's water below, there's probably water in the sides, more likely to collapse. And don't forget the 2-foot rule. No tools, materials, vehicles, even the spoil pile needs to be at least 2 feet away from the edge of the trench. Now, working near highways, roadways, we got to make sure that we have our minimum class 2 high-vis vest on. We also want to make sure that we have a sign set up that lets people know that warn of the oncoming traffic, and we need to have cones to establish a safe work zone. You need to think about a few things. We need to think about how long we're going to be working in this location. What is this kind of location? What's the type of roadway? Is it a rural road? Is it residential? Is it a major thoroughfare? And then also what type of work we're doing. Are we going to be doing aerial and moving along, or are we going to be kind of stationary doing some underground work? So we need to keep that in mind when we set up our temporary traffic control zone. To make things smoother in the future, we'd also like to get together and start having post-job briefings. Get everybody together and who planned and performed the job. Think about the work that was performed and did it go as was planned? We want to document this so we can solidify the work and fix it. So the next time we run into this situation, we'll be better prepared. So everybody, stay safe till the next time. We'll be talking to you later. Bye for now.